Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to my beer review. I am the Mighty Plantain, and I'm using a nautical greeting solely because we're looking at Dogfish Head's Squall IPA. Any sailor will tell you a squall is one of the last things you want to hear about, especially them old world sailors. So there's not much information on the label. It's a bottle-conditioned IPA, and 9% alcohol by volume, blah, 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 blah. And it's part of the 2016 Dogfish Head Craft Brewery limited releases. So, like I said, not much information there other than that. There's nothing about the specific hop blends or anything else. So this is going to be a voyage of discovery in and of itself, just when we check it out, because we've got no preconceived notions other than the fact that it's an IPA, which means it's going to be very hoppy. It's also bottle conditioned, which means there's a pretty good chance there's a clot of yeast down here on the bottom of the bottle. There's a couple of different schools of thought on that. Some folks will tell you, pour it all the way out, get that yeast into your glass because it enhances the flavor, because you're getting more of those esters and more of the specific flavors from the yeast into that glass. The other school of thought is leave it in the bottle because you don't want to get a big mouthful of nasty yeast, because that's going to color your impression of the actual beer in the bottle. Now, I subscribe more to the second school of thought because I'm not a big fan of getting a big mouthful of bleh. Because let's be honest, clumped up yeast from the bottom of these bottles is not the greatest texture in the world. So I'm going to try to keep it in the bottle. If it does wind up in the glass, well, we'll just power through it for you, my loyal viewers. Speaking of which, make sure to hit me up down below with a like and a share. And if you like what you're seeing in these videos, make sure to subscribe. That way you'll get a notification every time I post a new video. And you know what? I think I'm going to have an easy time keeping the yeast in this bottle because even though I'm using this larger perfect pint glass, there's still plenty left in the bottle when I've got a full glass. And I managed to put a decent head on that, which is something I struggle with. Let's see if we can get a good clear impression of the look of this beer. I just want to wipe that mild sheen of sweat off the glass. Now, it is slightly cloudy, which is to be expected from a bottle-conditioned beer. Again, there's a little bit of active yeast in there probably at the bottom. Bottle-conditioned means that it was aged in the bottle. 9 times out of 10, there is some secondary fermentation happening there by leaving some yeast in there. The bottle's brown and dark enough that I can't really tell, but I'm 90% sure there's a clot of yeast in there. Beat that dead horse, didn't I? So it is slightly cloudy. It's got a nice pinkish amber hue. The pinkish color is a bit of a surprise. I wasn't quite expecting that, but pinkish amber. It's interesting to see the way the light plays off of that unique color with the cloudiness of the beer, the slight cloudiness. It's a little bit effervescent. Lots of citrus jumping out at me there. Lots of citrus up front, followed by, honestly, a fresh, earthy, almost grassy notes in there. It's weird. It's kind of grassy, but there's also that hint of a nice summer rain evaporating off of pavement without that tang that you get to that smell, just that freshness. Maybe it's because this is a limited release and it's fairly new, but there's a very, very fresh, grassy, earthy smell that, like I said, it reminds me of evaporating water, like a quick summer rain. It's difficult to describe, but it smells awesome. Enough about that. Let's find out how it tastes. A bit earthy and grassy still. But that gives way to a slight saltiness, honestly. As I'm drinking it, I think the esters, the scent and aroma, the esters contained in that are kind of playing off the taste, which is to be expected, of course. But in this case, it seems to change the character of the aroma of the beer into more floral. I was getting citrus and earthy, grassy notes in the aroma, but as I'm tasting it, that's kind of coming through in the aftertaste, and also as I'm smelling it, as I'm putting it in my mouth. I'm actually getting more floral notes, but when I swallow, when I'm actually getting in the taste, honestly, it reminds me of being out on the open sea. It's not really salty, but it's evocative of the salt air of the sea. The only other time I've really run into a sensation like this was when I was drinking Lefroy, which is a Scotch whiskey, which just is very, very evocative of the open sea. And I don't know if it's my impression based on the art on the bottle and the name of the beer, but honestly, this is really giving me that salt air, the sea spray. It's very evocative of the taste that's in your mouth when you're on the open sea. I mean, there are some slight hints of this being a high alcohol by volume beer. It's 9%, so there's that slight bit of alcohol sourness, but that's really underlying. So in the aroma, citrus that gives way to very earthy, grassy notes, and that weird, fresh rain type aroma. But then as I'm drinking it, it's a slightly salt air feel, and the aroma gives way to floral notes. So it's almost like a fresh bouquet of flowers on an open deck schooner, I guess. I don't know. It's difficult to describe, but it is a very interesting beer that changes and evolves as you drink it, and really extremely complex. I don't know if this is just my personal impression of this, or if this is what everybody's going to get off of it, or if this was the brewmaster's intent, but I am really loving this beer. It, like I said, it reminds me of being on the open sea, and that could just be influenced by the label, but I'm seriously getting that taste and that aroma out of it. I just picture myself on a sailing ship, not necessarily in the middle of a violent squall, but definitely on the open sea. Makes this a very impressive beer for me because I'm enjoying it so much, because of the imagery that it conjures in my mind, and because of the fact that it is so complex and it changes as you take it in. It's really an overall sensory experience for me. I'm loving this. It is a medium heavy mouthfeel. Honestly, it's almost like drinking some salt water, with different detrimental effects than drinking salt water would bring you, obviously. But for all those reasons, and the fact that I'm just really, really enjoying it, I am putting this at a solid 5 out of 5. This is a great beer. It's a 2016 limited release based on the label, and I really, really hope that we see it again next year, or maybe that it becomes a regular release for these guys, because Dogfish Head puts out some great beers. Their IPAs are top notch, and this one just is impressing me as much as the 120 minute or any of their other really great high profile IPAs does. I'm loving it. I think you're going to love it too, especially if you're an IPA lover. Check it out for yourself. Hit me up in the comments and the email link down below. I'll pop a user poll up here. Click on that link, rate it really quick, 1 to 5. Takes just a second. I'm interested to hear your opinion. Because believe it or not, I do check them out. It's a sounding board for me. Lets me know if I'm giving you an accurate depiction of the beer or if I'm way off base compared to the rest of you. But again, beer is a personal experience and everybody's tastes are different, so you may agree or disagree. I'm be willing to discuss it with you. Hit the user poll, hit me up in the comments, the email link. I've gone on long enough about this beer. I'm going to go back to drinking it. Till next time, cheers.